Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Nomad podcast. This week, Abby is missing in action. Not too sure where he is. He's unable to make the podcast. He does not have COVID-19. But we're joined here by
Davey Noonan.
Good on you, Davey. Today we're going to be talking, probably a bit of a shorter podcast today. We're going to be talking all things horse racing. So some horse racing things. Davey is mad into his horse racing, and it's quite an interesting subject. We were just talking before off air there, and there's a lot of things about it that we're gonna have a chat about and see the insides out. But one of the things that's super interesting about horse racing is it's the only sport that continued throughout the COVID-19.
Especially here in Australia. I think it was the only, I know back in Ireland, England, it was all canned, all meetings were suspended, but here in Australia it was kept going because I think more so maybe people just needed something to keep going, like keep people's morale up. Plus there was a lot of money involved in here in Australia. I think it was the only country in the whole world where the horse racing industry kept going, and it became kind of like a little thing around the world where people were actually tuning in from all over the world watching it because it was the only live horse racing meetings that was actually happening.
It's like where's in what country where in the world is biggest for horse racing? Is like Ireland or
Ireland probably has the best record of breeding horses. I know back, I don't know when it was, I think it was in the 80s or something, the Irish government relaxed in the horse breeding industry, they relaxed the taxes on it, so Ireland became like a haven for people who wanted to breed horses, and all the best horses all over the world were being brought to Ireland because it was like they didn't have to pay tax. I think it was tax free. They didn't have to pay taxes on breeding horses and selling horses. So Ireland then got all the high end horses were coming to Ireland to be bred and with other horses and stuff like that. So I know Ireland, America as well, England.
Dubai, are they they're big over there?
Dubai, they have obviously a lot of wealth over there, so a lot of the sheiks invest in horse racing. That's why it's the horse racing is called like the king of sport of kings. So I think that was where it kind of originated, because a lot of the sheiks invested in horse racing and stuff like that. So they kind of seen it as a way of investing their money in the sport where they could see high end earnings returned. So they buy horses and breed horses as well. So a lot of the horses were sent to Ireland and England to be bred by these guys from Dubai with all the money, and they're still involved in it today. Sheikh Mohammed owns Godolphin Racing, which is pretty big here in Australia. James Cummings is the main trainer for them here in Australia, and then in the UK they have their own Godolphin stables over there. They've got a big foothold in the horse racing industry in the world.
I read the other day as well, I don't know if you guys know that, but I read that Australians are the biggest gamblers in the world.
Oh yeah?
Per person, yeah.
Well, you can see every bloody TV station you turn on, it's all these betting apps. You've got so many these days. You've got bloody Sportsbet, you got Bet365, BetEasy, PointsBet, Nedsbet. There's new ones coming out every couple of months. Yeah. And it's because people, when it came on, these came out, it was more so, gambling used to be like horse racing and greyhounds and stuff like that. It was more so for people who were actually interested in the industry, who were actually like keen who would go to their horse race meetings in Doom and Eagle Farm or back in the UK and Ireland. Whereas now more people are being exposed to it and, have these apps, so they're betting. So a lot more people are betting these days. And I know in Australia it's a big industry. If you go into any pub, especially, I know in Ireland there's no betting, you can't gamble in pubs. I think it's the same in the UK, isn't it?
Same back home.
So we're
usually there's a bookies conveniently located
it's always
right next
beside
to it.
It's always like 2 shops away from the pub. There's always a betting office, But here in Australia, you can bet in the pub. They have their own TABs in the pub, so you can have a beer and just go up and put a bet on and watch the racing. So I think that has a big thing about that what you just said about Australia having the highest per head of capita of gambling in the world, betting on horse racing anyway. And it's become a massive industry. And as you said earlier, it was the only country in the world that kept the racing industry going through all this COVID-19.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So like ownership. Talk me through ownership quickly before we get into betting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously it's quite. I'd imagine it's quite expensive to own a horse.
Yeah.
How does that all work from breeding to and then even ownership?
Yeah. So back in the day, it used to be exclusively to rich people. If you wanted to buy a decent racehorse, you had to have a lot of money, and so it was kind of that's another way. You know, they're sport of kings. It was kind of like the upper class people were able to afford to buy horse races or race horses. Sorry, and that was mainly the whole industry. It was small niche group of people used to own all the race horses, and it was kind of like a small little market. Whereas nowadays, people kind of seeing like, you know, we need to expand the industry and kind of get more people involved. So what they started to do was, at like the likes of the Magic Million sale down the Gold Coast at the start of the year, people go and they buy a young racehorse. And not to just keep it for themselves. They'll basically buy the horse, bring it back to the stables, and then go, okay, we're going to franchise this horse basically out. We're going to sell shares to this horse to the public, and they'll advertise it on TV stations like racing channel, free-to-air racing channel. You'll see a lot of the ads will come up, such and such a racehorse out of such and such a sire, blah, blah, bought at the Magic Million sales. You can buy shares in this horse for only $6,000 for 5% of the racehorse. So a lot of people were able to afford, rather than having to fork out the full price for a racehorse, they were able to buy small shares in the racehorse. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you buy 5% of a racehorse, obviously you're only going to get 5% of the prize money. But it's more so, I think people were doing it to, you know, be able to go to Doomben or Eagle Farm or Newmarket, Cheltenham back in the UK, and be able to go, oh yeah, that's my horse, and watch the horse race and have that buzz and anticipation and the excitement to actually own a racehorse. So for people getting into the industry, that's how people are getting involved in it now. So they're buying shares, small percentage shares in racehorses, and kind of going from there. And like, if you're getting success out of one racehorse, you're getting prize money back, and then they're investing into another horse, and that's how people are getting involved.
I mean, look, is there a lot of? I'd imagine there'd be a lot of duds out there, but can you win good money? Like, obviously, the top end horses can win fortunes. I'm guessing, like Winks and stuff, but like average horses, say, you know, like,
like if you get kind of, you watch the racing channel and stuff like that, and they go into details on their average horses, like in a country meeting during the week down on bloody Warwick Farm or somewhere like that, and they talk about a horse, and like they'll tell you, oh yeah, he was bought at such and such a sale for 50 grand, and he's gone on and won maybe $500,000 in prize money. So you do get, there is a lot of duds. Like I heard a funny story on the radio coming up work one day, and a guy, he was a radio jockey on, I think it was Triple M, and they were just chatting away, and they were talking about a funny story. He's like, yeah, so one of the other guys was taking a piss out. He says, I heard you have a funny story about a racehorse you invested in. And he was kind of going, yeah, we invested. My brother-in-law told him, like, nudged me along the way to get involved in the racehorse with him. So he said, come on board. I think there was 2 or 3 others involved in it. So I think they bought the racehorse for 100 grand, and his share was 25 grand. So they bought this racehorse, pretty decent pedigree of a horse for like you get for 100 grand. And he's raced his first race and he's come down cold last. So they were like, he's out of a decent sire and dame, something's not right here. They trained it and said, oh, there's something wrong with this horse. So they sent it to the vet and they got a scan on the racehorse, and it turns out like they did a CT scan on his brain, and it basically the horse's brain never developed properly, and he was basically not a vegetable but pretty close to being he was a sandwich short of a picnic basically, to put it mildly. So they said to the trainer, what can we do with this horse? And the trainer says, you can't, he's never going to be a racehorse. So he was like, what the fuck? So he said he came home one day from work and he had a letter in the post from, I don't know what, Chum dog fucking food factory, and he was like, what the fuck's this? So he opened it, and it was a check for, I think it was $100 from this dog food. They'd sold the horse to the bloody, it's a horrible thing to say, they sold the horse to the dog food factory for whatever, $400, and that was his share. So from his $25,000 investment, he got $100 back over. Jeez. So that's the bad side of it. But you do hear a lot of good side of stories, like the likes of Winks was bought for 200,000 at the, I think it was a Magic Million sale
down the Gold Coast.
Down the Gold Coast, I don't know how many years back now, and it was another syndicate, but the people that were involved in that syndicate were involved in horse races for a long time, so it wasn't just a lucky dip people coming off the street. But she was bought for 200 grand, and she went on to win $27 million in prize money. So you can make a lot of money, but to make a lot of money, you have to. The best way to do it is to invest in, like anything, like in greyhound racing, is to invest in good pedigree. So the sire, the father of the horse, and the dame, the mother of the horse, have proven, racing like records where they've won big races and stuff like that. So that's how, if you want them kind of not guarantee, but like a higher percentage rate of successes out of good breeding.
Is like male or females? Like what tends to be faster? Is there a particular like?
Winks is probably one of the best horses in the last 20, 30 years. Yeah,
and
she's a female, so it's hard to It's never and say that a male is always like in racing and track and field. Generally, men are faster than women. Whereas male and female in the horse racing industry, generally, there's never say, oh yeah, men are definitely. You'll have women, mares racing against male horses, stallions, whatever, geldings and stuff like that. So yeah, it just depends on the horse.
Do they fill in with drugs and stuff, performance enhancement drugs, or do they get tested?
Swabbed. They get tested. Yeah, there's in the last couple of years, there's been trainers that have been disqualified over doping instances. So they get tested like any athlete.
But is the how accurate is the testing? Is it easily? Do you know much about it? Is it easy for them to bypass it, do you reckon?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they obviously have to give a swab test.
It wouldn't be
like
USADA testing, would it? Or?
I'm not sure. Well, I've known, I used to own a greyhound, and I remember speaking to the trainer about it, and they basically, before races, they get one out of the eight dogs will get picked out of it. They do a little ball, lot will kind of dip and they picked out. And so it's at random. So you've got a 1 in 8 chance of getting picked out of every race. So they do go through all the testing. So they test for any sort of performance enhancing substances. So yeah, I don't think it's an easy way of getting around it. So I think a lot of people kind of play it by the book. Yeah, because it's too much of a risk. They get heavy bans and fines and stuff for it. So for you, just to get one horse to perform better, I don't think it's worth the risk.
Are you ever owned a horse or?
No, I'd love to. Yeah. I'd love to one day. That'd be the dream. My dad used to own a greyhound back in Ireland. I've owned a couple of dogs here with a few mates, like a syndicate and 3 or 4 mates. We went in on dogs. No success really. Yeah. But it's just a buzz. We invested the greyhounds we bought were around $2.5 grand. So it was around $650 each investment. Then training fees leading up to when it races, and in the dog industry here, when the dog starts racing, it's usually a 50-50 deal with the trainer, so you don't pay anything when the dog's actually racing. Yeah. But if it wins or gets any prize money, it splits 50-50 between the trainer and the owner. So it kind of makes the trainer kind of put in the effort on training your dog, because he sees 50% of the prize money, and then you see the other 50%. Yeah. But yeah, we got a great buzz out of it. We went to watch it a couple of times, in Albion Park and stuff like that, and it's just a good buzz. Yeah. So one day I'd love to own a racehorse and be able to go to Doombill or Eagle Farm and watch a run.
When it comes to betting and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, no, the other thing I was going to ask as well is there much cheating? I heard stories when I was growing up about the old, particularly the greyhounds. They used to feed, feeding 5 of the greyhounds and then leaving one of them for free.
I know a couple of dogs were tested there over the last year or two, and they were found to have speed and cocaine in the system.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were kind of given this before races, and obviously to try and improve their performances. You hear stories about dogs being fed, so like they're, you know, just before races, so like they underperform. A lot of people will do that, trainers, to get a better price for a bigger race. So where they're going into a race where they're expected to win, they're short prices. They feed the dog, so the dog loses, and then goes into the next race, gets a better price, and then he pisses home, and they get like they lump on the dog. So there is instances like that, and you do hear like it's like.
Does it go on in horse racing? But does it?
I don't know, like, I don't know, I wouldn't have that much, I don't know many trainers and something like that to hear, but you obviously know there is ways to slow down. Like, if you obviously feed a horse, it's pretty similar, like, to put the horse, and then you've obviously got a jockey involved, so a jockey has a lot to do with the way the horse runs. Like, so certain horses like to be lead from the front. So if they kind of hold the horse back, the horse then tends to over race because he wants to be out in front and he's trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
And the jockey holds him back, and you'll see that in a horse where it's pulling at the bit, they say, because the horse wants to bolt away and get out in front. But a jockey will be like, no, we'll hold him back, and then he could finish like 4th, 5th, 6th, and then the next race get him out in front and bloody win.
Yeah.
And then that's where you kind of do get that kind of fixing involved in racing. So there can be, there is a dark side of it too, but most of them kind of keep the industry clean. Like,
for somebody getting involved in racing for the first time in the, like, you know, they're wanting to have a punt and have a bet.
Yeah.
I guess what would be the best advice, you know, like,
well, people,
how to get started?
Well, all these betting apps kind of are pretty easy to work these days. They give you the horse form and stuff like that, so you can read into it. Like, obviously, certain horses like certain tracks. They like certain surfaces, like hard surfaces, wet surfaces. So the different horses like different grounds. So they have all that information on an app for you. So you kind of read into the app, all the form, and then it's pretty easy. But then again, with those apps, it's pretty easy to lose money because it's just like you transfer $50 in, you fucking put a few bets on, you lose. Oh, just put another few. It's not as easy as just going into. It's not as easy going into a TAB and physically giving money over the counter to a person, and where you can actually see your money going over, and it's like, okay, I've lost a few quid here, I should stop.
Is it like, obviously, is it a case over time when you see familiar horses winning and you see the performance, and, you know, gradually over the years you start to get recognised? Yeah, like, it's like
anything. Once you do your research into anything, you kind of get to know horses and the way they like to be. Certain tracks, they like certain tracks and stuff like that. So you know when a horse is in form, when they come out with, like, they call it preparation. So each preparation they run maybe 4 or 5 times, and then the trainer will kind of give them a rest for a month or two, and then come again. So they'll see what way it comes out of each preparation, and they say, okay, it's hit the ground running, it's running well, so keep running it until it starts underperforming again, and then we'll give it another rest. So when you kind of see that, you start to learn the trends in certain horses. Certain trainers have like better strike rates than other trainers. So once you kind of do your research, it becomes easier to pick winners. But like any sort of gambling, it's all a risk. You get told tips. Oh yeah, this horse, I got told by the trainer he's not going to get beaten, and then he goes out and gets beaten, and then it's a gamble. It's like, that's what they call it, gambling. But the more you do your research, the more success you have. If you know what I mean. Is
there any, like, look, I mean, I hear a lot about them betting tipping companies, where you pay, you know, $20 a month, whatever, and they send you a PDF with all their tips for that month or whatever. Like, you got to be careful with them things, or what?
Well, I think a lot of them do it because it's in their interest to give good tips, because like the more good tips they give, the more the good word spreads. Did you download that app? They give great tips every weekend, blah blah. So more people, so it's in their interest to give good tips. So they make it easier for you because they do all the researching for, like, they'll have the knowledge of every bloody horse. They'll know, like, its form, its history down through its pedigree. So it's in their interest to give good tips. And I think they're like us, they're like their fellow gamblers, so they like to see people win. like everyone wants to beat the bookie at the end of the day, because you know they're the ones that are making the most money. Because you know that old saying, you never see a poor bookie. Like you'll always see them driving around in fucking top range cars, and that's the reason, because the bookie always wins. Like the house always wins in Vegas. They'll always win. They'll always come out on top, because they might have bad days where every favourite will win at a certain meeting and they'll get cleaned out. But that's a very rare occasion. 9 times out of 10, they'll come out on top every time. So I think all these punting apps and punting columns on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, they want to see people win and they want to see people beat the bookie. So now they are good to download, because they give you the inside information where you don't have to do all the research yourself. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So the best way to get involved, if you want to buy a horse or a greyhound or whatever, is like you go onto forums and web pages. They'll have horses and stuff for sale, but you obviously have to be mindful to do your research, because there's a lot of people out there, just like breeders, that know this horse isn't great. We need to get rid of this, so we'll put it out there, and they'll talk the horse up and say, oh yeah, it's by such and such. He's had so many wins, and the dame had so many wins, and blah blah blah. So they're just looking to offload horses, and that's how you can get sucked in if you don't do your research. But if you do your research, and you can't pay like agents to do that for you, who like trade in that, like bloodstock agents who do all that research and are involved in the industry, they'll have a greater knowledge and go, okay, I think you should buy this horse or get involved in this horse, because it's got proven pedigree on both sides, down the whole way down the line from sire to his sire, blah blah blah. So that's a good way to get a better chance of like success in owning a horse, like a good horse.
Is there like, I mean, just for someone like me, I don't really bet on horses at all. But when I look at the form and I see like 1, 1, 1, 1, X2, whatever, is that a good indication of?
Yeah. So what that is, that's just where they finish in the last races. So 1 obviously is first. When you see an X, it means that they've been spelled, so they've been put out back to the training yard for a couple of months to give it a rest. Because like any I say the word athlete, but Raz is gonna laugh at that one. But like any kind of athlete, you can't keep going. You need a break sometimes, because your body kind of gets to a point where, okay, they've ran 5-6 times it's usually over a short extended period. So it'll be if not every week, every 10 days or so, they'll do that for like 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then they'll give the horse a break for a couple of months, just to give it a rest, to kind of recuperate, get the body back to normal again, give the muscles a chance to recuperate. Plus, a lot of horses, as I say, like they like to certain types of ground. So good to firm ground, like hard ground, and like summer horses, they don't like the wet weather. So particularly this time of year, they won't race, because there's no point in racing, because they don't like the ground. They're not going to win. So there's no point in racing it, because all you're doing is wasting it. It costs money to enter horses into races. So it just costs money when they know they're not going to get anything in return. So all that kind of form, you'll see that X will tell you that it's been spell for a bit, and you can go down and you can see when it ran last. It'll tell you the date, where it ran, what the distance was, who was the jockey, what weight it was carrying, and all that. So all those apps and stuff like that give you all that information to make it easier to formulate, okay, that's the best horse I think in the race that's going to win. So that's, you just have to know what you're looking for in those kind of apps, and once you get used to them, it's fairly straightforward. You kind of get to understand what you need to be looking for. And obviously distances, ground, times a year they've ran, and they've won. All these factors come into it. So the more you kind of do your research into it, the easier it is to pick winners. Okay. In theory.
Thanks, Davey. Just a quick one for you today, guys. Let us know if you like it and if you want us to do more quick ones. Thanks.
And always gamble responsibly.